Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandbrainboots.com, and I have a nice treat for those of you who like videos that are longer. We have fall gnome ideas compilations. We have a mix of everything from the Dollar Tree, sock gnomes, no-sew patterns, sewn patterns, and I'm going to let you know that I'm just taking all of the introductions and everything, so you're gonna hear, hey, please like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's get into our first set of cuties.
Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandbrainboots.com, and today I'm turning Dollar Tree pumpkins into adorable gnomes with big bubbly toe feet. Look at these cuties. And if you would like to make them with me, boop, stick around. I sound a little stuffed up today because I'm sick, but as always, like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. So it took me 20 minutes to make two gnomes out of these Dollar Tree pumpkins. And I just want to let you know they're the ones wrapped in buffalo fabric. They are not the regular styrofoam pumpkins. They're the ones with these plastic stems. So you're also going to need a beard material. I'm using Mongolian fur. We're going to need scissors, a ruler, and a hot glue gun. We're also going to need fleece to make the hat. Now speaking of the hat, you're going to create your own pattern. It's going to be 9 inches on the fold, 7.5 on the base, with a 1/2 inch rise, and then 11.25 inches all the way back up to the top. So I'll show you my pattern I made out of notebook paper. But here's what the hat looks like. So you see this drop back pattern, that's what we're making with this. It's gonna really help us give stability to our little pumpkin gnomes. So the star of the show are these pre-made feet. So Andrea is a seller on Etsy. I'm going to put these down below and you can see these are the bottom of feet. Now they can be used for dolls, they can be used for gnomes, anything. You can put them on a box if you want to, but they're made of polymer clay. She has 2 different sizes. She also has completed molds like this in 2 different sizes. So I'm going to be sharing a tutorial later on how to use these molds. I just think this is such a good idea because so many people ask me how to make the feet out of polymer clay. She's basically taken the guesswork out of it. You can use all of these different flesh tone colored clays just to create your own. So look for that tutorial soon, but I figured I'm going to use these small ones and attach them with hot glue. So first I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure out a pattern onto notebook paper. I'm going to fold my fabric and cut that 9 inches on the fold, trim down the bottom, and then here we are. It just looks like a triangle. I'm going to go on the wrong side of the fabric and I'm going to make a very thin hem. Now you don't have to do this, but my cut fleece does show an edge. You can also just add a cute little rustic trim and raffia or something. So once that's set, we're going to put right sides together and make our hot glue hem. So this is a Sure Bonder Mini. It's my favorite glue gun right now. It's very tiny, great for details. It doesn't have fabric hot glue in it right now, but it works really well with just a regular hot glue. I do use either Sure Bonder or Gorilla Glue sticks. So I'm going to show you 2 different hats. One is going to be the traditional one that we just glued and are waiting on setting. And the second one, we're going to cut off the tip of the hat and then we're going to stuff that plastic stem that we pulled off the pumpkin right on the top of it. So I'll show you both versions. So now that we know that glue is set, we're going to pull it apart, make sure there are no holes in our hem, and then use our scissors or pencil to pop out the very tip of the hat. And you can see here, it looks exactly like our other one. When you get a moment, just pull out that stem. One of them came out really easy. Another one I had to cut like this big glob of hot glue off. And then I'm going to take my scissors and make sure I tuck in all that fabric, and I'm going to glue it back down just to make sure nothing ever comes unraveled. I'm going to find the front, which won't really matter if you're using a robust beard like me. And then I'm going to slip on the hat. So see how far I pull that back hat. Oops. See how far I pull the back down? It's actually going to go under the little, what we're going to now refer to as the pumpkin booty. All right, so here's how we're going to put our feet on. Just the unfinished portion, we're going to put hot glue on the back and hold them until they set. So you can see there, I put my hot glue a little bit high. Don't go to where like the pad of the foot is. Stay in the middle of the foot and you should be good. But you want the heel to be on the table, okay? So make sure that they're down. It's going to make your gnome fall forward if they're not, because they are a little heavy. They're polymer clay. So I'm just going to repeat that with the other one and hold that until it sets. All right, look at him, he's coming together. Look at his cute little self. Okay, Excuse me. Now for the beard, you can do whatever you would like if you have Dollar Tree chamois or yarn, but I'm using a Mongolian fur. I'm going to cut it 1 inch by 3 inches wide, and then I'm just going to use a razor blade or other straight edge blade and cut that fabric backing. I'll put an iCard up above on how to cut faux fur if this is your first time, but basically once you get it scored, you can just rip it apart. I'm going to find the center. And for those of you who are new to cutting faux fur, you can actually use a pen or a marker and draw out your beard shape on the back so it'll be easier for you to follow. So you can see I'm doing that here, and I'm just cutting a really wide U shape, which basically just means I'm creating eyebrows for a gnome later because whoop, that little tiny piece is coming off. Now I do have a pretty robust beard, excuse me, and I used pins to hold it into place to make sure I liked the size of my nose. So I'm using a 3/4 inch wood round here. You can use a wood bead, a pom-pom, or anything. Before you get to the nose though, you need to secure that beard with hot glue and press it right up against the fabric, and then do the other side. So it's easy peasy. I'm going to show you 2 ways I did the gnome beards for this as well. So this is what it looks like so far. And then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to split the fur in the middle all the way to the fabric backing, add a generous portion of hot glue, and give it an intense nose boop, and hold it there until the glue sets. I'm also going to take about a 1 inch, very thin, maybe by 1/2 inch rectangle, and I'm going to glue it right onto the top of the nose for this guy. And again, it just gives it a different look. You don't have to do this. And then this is what he looks like so far. I'm going to actually end up cutting that down a little bit, but before I do, I want to set this bottom piece. So I'm going to glue this portion of the hat and I'm just going to roll it up, just like that. Slip that back on. Remember to tug that piece underneath the booty. So you're going to pull this hat pretty far down, and then you can decide if you want a hat that's standing or one that's folded over. But I see this little spray here. I'm going to end up cutting that little spray a little bit. To do that, I just pull it out and cut like parallel to the hair. And then once I know I like it, I'm just going to go right up under that hat, right above the hairline, and I'm going to add my hot glue on both sides of that nose. And then I'm going to also secure down the very back, which is underneath. See that? See how far I pulled it underneath? And then it's going to help with our feet. And then I'm just going to secure this and then the sides. So if you do want to add arms, go ahead and do that before securing these sides. And I just scrunched up the hat a little bit. I did not glue it because I wanted to show you the different hats. All right. This is the second one, so the hat is made the exact same way. I tucked under the bottom. We're going to secure that as well. And I'm just going to show you how it's so easy just to cut a hole at the top of it and stick this down in there. So when we get to that, it'll really make a good impact. I love it. I wish I'd done both hats this way. All right, so for this guy, I just cut I think it's a 1.5 by 1.5 inch Mongolian in frosted gray. I did the same thing where I split the beard, added the nose, and then tucked up the bottom of my hat before slipping it on. Now this one's pretty easy. I'm just going to be able to hot glue right to the top of the nose. I'm also going to hot glue the hat to the body, so add a little hot glue right above the beard. Let that set, and now I'm going to press in the little thing and add a very, very generous amount of hot glue. Pull up my fleece around it, and it looks super duper cute. And here they are, all done. Feet without feet, stem without stem. Let me know in the comments section, what do you think of these guys? Get the feet and the molds in the links down below from a fellow member of our community. And as always, please like and subscribe for more crafty fun.
Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making an elegant fall shelf-sitting gnome. Look at those big feet. If you'd like to make him, boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know that you're here crafting with me. It helps me in the algorithm a lot as well. So speaking of feet, let's go all the way down to these enormous cutie feet. This is a free pattern and we're going to be combining it with the Scandinavian Sweetie's body to make this very elegant guy. So as a reminder, the Scandinavian Sweetie's pattern is one of the best-selling patterns on Ruffles and Rain Boots because it is so versatile. It produces a 7 to 10 inch gnome and it has a lot of fun detail, multiple mittens, feet, bunny feet, arms, hats, all kind of stuff. Look at him. Look at this cutie and the details you can make with him. So as always, you can get the pattern for the Scandi Sweeties and this new boot pattern below. I'm using fur, fleece, cotton fabric for the legs, and then felt for the hat and booties. I'm also going to be using normal gnome making supplies like weight and fill. For this guy, I am sewing him. You can attempt to hot glue as well. I'm going to transfer the pattern to the felt on a fold and then I'm going to cut it out. I'm also going to transfer the body pattern to fleece and cut that out. And the only reason I chose gray is because it blends in with my Mongolian fur. Now the new parts to this pattern are going to be the legs, 3 inches wide by 10 inches tall. You need 2 of those. And the booties, which you can see here, I'm going to fold over this craft felt and I'm going to cut the booties. So a little portion of this is already connected. So that top 1.5 inches, 2 inches over there. I'm going to be putting this on my sewing machine, so I'm going to put right sides together on everything and pin them per the patterns. I'm going to take the very long, cool, stripy legs and I'm going to pin those as well, right sides together. Taking it all to my sewing machine, this is a staged sewing, so we're going to start with the legs, and that way we can move to the body and use the legs inside the body later. I'm just going to be using a 1/4 inch seam allowance for my booties, which I didn't sew really well, and I'll show you because I don't hide anything, but I am, because they're so big, able to sew up all the way to the ankle. So we're going to cut off all of that excess so it doesn't matter that it's all wonky. That's what I tell myself. All right, so sewing up the body, we're going to follow the Scandinavian Sweeties pattern, but instead of putting the base on, we're going to add our legs first. So I'm using a pencil here just to turn my legs right side out, and I'm going to make sure that that seam, the back seam, is in the middle of the quote back portion of the legs. So I have 2 of them here already. We're going to take the body pattern and fold down the front so you can see a little bit better, pin it or clip it, whatever you can so it's out of the way. I'm going to take, so you see how the back seam here is in the middle? I'm going to take both of these legs, and you have to pay attention to where the seam is. You need the seam facing you or facing that back body seam. And you can see I'm going to line it up with the body edge and pin them so that the legs are on even sides of the back seam, but they're sort of facing each other, and this will allow them to flop outward when we turn everything right side out. So I'm going to attach those directly to the body before I attach the base, and this is just like normal. You're going to pin it all the way around and sew that entire round, pulling everything out of the way as you do so. All right, so now I'm going to, let's see, so you can see it's all there. I always check my seams on everything. We're having, now we're going to start the assembly. So the first thing is, peekaboo, there's our legs. We're going to pull out the legs and then we're going to flip out the top. I used a pencil to help me poke out that top portion of the, right there, of the body, because it's also the top of our hat. Speaking of our hat, we're going to snip the seams and we're going to snip off the excess felt around that seam to about 1/8 of an inch, both on the hat and on each of the booties. And that just helps it when we turn it all to sit a little flatter. All right, so turn everything out right sides out and be sure to run your hand along those seams on that booty to make sure that you can get it to sit as flat as we can before we start stuffing it. Aren't they cute? Speaking of stuffing, we're going to start with our body and add about 1 cup of poly beads. These are non-odor and non-moisture absorbing. I don't recommend using food products in your gnomes. All right, so once we have that, we're going to start stuffing. If you would like a bendable body / hat, go ahead and grab any wire that you can. You can see my piece down there. I'm going to stuff the body mostly full, and then I'm going to cut this wire so it has about 1 inch more than I need, because I'm going to take both the bottom and the top. I'm going to turn the ends so that they don't poke through my body anywhere. I am going to make sure that I keep that wire towards that back seam so that I can capture it, whether I'm gluing it or sewing it. I want to make sure that it stays in place. If you are selling your gnomes, I highly recommend doing this, just because I have to answer a lot of questions based on how do I get somebody's gnome that I bought, the little wire is moved around. I try and help where I can, but I'm just telling you, if you do this in the beginning, you're going to be better for it. So you can see I'm Franken sewing up the back of my gnome here, and I'm putting the needle below that wire so that once I get all the way up, I will have it secured in place and it won't be moving around. If you are gluing, you can glue it to the inside of one side and then glue the two pieces together. In order to make sure I hide this, I'm just going to press it through the body, pull it taut, and snip it off. And then look, now you have a bendable body. Be sure to roll that body between your hands to distribute the polyfill evenly before you move on. All right, so for the legs, I'm going to use polyfill and stuff them most of the way before adding a wire. Now these are longer than the Dollar Tree foam rollers, which you can use, but I would recommend having a bit of flat at the top so that the legs sit flat. So just if you're using those, be sure to make sure they don't pop up. So you can see I have these. I'm dancing, you know, like, come on, have a little fun. All right, so I'm going to do the other leg, and then I'm going to cut some wire, again, snipping or rolling down the top and the bottom as well. And I'm going to put that in the top portion of the legs so that I can bend the knee down, right? So I just want half of the leg with wire. And then I'm going to finish stuffing the rest of the two legs. For the wraparound beard, I'm using a Mongolian fur in frosted gray. This is a 3-inch pile beard, and it is lovely. In order to cut faux fur, you're just going to use a straight edge, a razor, a box cutter, whatever you have, and you're going to cut the fabric backing only. So you can see here, it's going to touch at the top and not so exactly touch at the bottom. And the reason we want that is because we don't like gluing fur to fur. If you're sewing this, absolutely. If you're gluing this, go ahead and cut it into a trapezoid shape, which I'll show you in just a second after we brush it out. I love Mongolian fur because it can look rugged and rough, or it can look elegant and sleek, and all it takes is a little bit of brushing. All right, so you can see here the top of our fur touches. So what we want to do is cut a trapezoid shape to make sure we can have both the pieces of fur directly on the body as opposed to each other. And you can see here the hat still fits on, so we're all good. I'm just going to grab my hot glue gun and secure this all the way around the body. I did not secure it to the top of the legs. You can do that if you'd like. I just like the look of it all flat and sitting, kind of like flowing around the body. So you'll see what I mean in just a second when I get this all glued down. Give him a little brush, and I'm going to add a little bit of extra detail to his hat by cutting some leaves with my Cricut, but the Dollar Tree has some adorable wood leaves right now. So pretty. In order to attach the booties, I'm going to put a generous portion of hot glue right on the inside, squeezing the base of the leg into that pile, and then I'm just adding a little accent of twine, tying it off on the side and securing it with a little hot glue. It looks cute, right? It looks cute. I did it on the other side, and now I'm going to split the fur to its fabric backing, add a generous portion of hot glue, and attach a nose. It can be a clay one like I've made here, or a wood bead, wood round, or pantyhose stuffed with fill. All right, so I like the scrunch. I'm going to attach the hat to the front by gluing it to the nose, and then I'm going to attach it in the back by gluing each of my little flaps down to the body directly. And then I'm just going to pull that fur over to hide the back, and look! What do you think? I love this guy. I think he's so elegant. I think he'd be perfect in a bookshelf or hanging off the top of a tiered tray. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi there friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making an easy Dollar Tree mushroom gnome. These have been inspired by other gnome makers. We are going to keep this G-rated with fun details, and if you'd like to make them, boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting. Now, as I said, there are two inspirations I had. Jen in the DIY Gnomes group originally put the beard on the mushroom, and Misty of Misty's Crafting Clutter, her link will be down below, also provided a little clay booty and feet for inspiration. So I'm using a ceramic mushroom. You can use any ceramic mushroom if you're using polymer clay. Now, polymer has to be baked, so if you're using a plastic mushroom, you're going to have to go with air dry clay. I made a nose, which I eventually ended up cutting in half after baking, but then I'm going to just start building stuff up. Here I am getting an idea of what I want the little cheekies to look like, but basically you're just going to throw some clay on first. Now, if you are using my method, you don't have to use anything to fix the clay. If you are only going to add clay to different little parts and pieces, please use Sculpey's liquid clay, and that will make sure it doesn't just come off or break off. So again, I'm going to be wrapping the entire thing. After I build up the mound for the derriere, I'm going to mimic the lines. So I wanted to make sure that I brought those lines in from the original Dollar Tree mushroom because they were actually kind of cute. These are great even just when they're painted. You don't have to add anything like a booty. So to make the derriere, I just split a little portion of the mound with my paintbrush and then use my fingers and the paintbrush to smooth everything out. I then took about a 2 1/4 inch piece of clay and I'm going to split it in half. It doesn't have to be exact, but you do want it mostly the same so you can make 2 legs. Make a very chunky ankle, a cankle if you will, because we're going to need to take some of that clay to affix it to the gnome. So I turned it over and created a divot in the bottom of the foot and the ball of the foot just by using a paintbrush. I also made a nice little slope for the top of the foot before I cut these toes. I don't know how many toes a gnome has, but I'm going with 5. So I made 4 slits in the front and then just used my fingers and the paintbrush to sort of smooth it all around. There's not a lot of detail because these are rather small, as you can see, but if you want to add a toenail, I have a video where I showed you all how to do that. It's super easy. Okay, so once those are all shaped and smoothed out on the top and the bottom, you can gently press it into the mushroom while we work on the second one. So you can see, just press it in just a little bit, get it to stick. Squish it. And then you make your second foot, which I'll do off camera. All right, so once you have both feet, you're going to press it into the mushroom and then sort of pull the clay away from it. So use your fingers and just pull down that clay. It will thin out your foot a little bit and make sure that they're aligned so they're not hanging below the booty or below the part that sits on the table. Okay, so now as I said, I'm going to be wrapping the entire thing in this color clay. If you're not, please use air drying clay instead of baking clay. Okay, so I'm just going to add a layer between the feet all the way around to the booty, in the tummy area, and then around the other side. And all I'm doing is adding small amounts of clay and then making my fingers and the paintbrush sort of smooth it out and add those lines back in. Do the other side and then the tummy. After you get that done, put them in the oven per the package instructions and take a self-care selfie. That's not me. Okay, so for the beard, after this is baked, all I did was just measured a rectangle that went beyond the edge of the feet. But you could do any beard shape. Like a really cool one would just be a triangle, and then it would hang down off the shelf like really long. Super cute, like Rip Van Winkle. Okay, so in order to make it sit correctly, I'm just cutting out 2 things. The first is a leg hole, and the second is just sort of curving the edge of the rectangle around so it sits against the body. Here you go, just rip it off. Now, before you put it on, to make it look really finished, here's the tip. Grab your hot glue gun, you're gonna need it anyway, and then brush out your beard however you'd like, or leave it all rough and tumbly. Flip it over, add hot glue to the very, very top and fold that down. It's going to create a finished look because we cannot tuck the beard up under the hat.
I created a faux mustache by just splitting the fur in the center, and then I'm going to position it and glue it on directly to the mushroom. Squish! Do you like my sound effects? I could up my production value and get you a nice sound effect machine. Okay, so once that is on, I'm just messing around with it. Go ahead and affix your nose. Now, again, I'm cutting a baked, I don't recommend this, a baked round. I just split the fur to the fabric backing and stuck this right on the fabric. Now, after this is all baked and everything, everybody kept wanting to lift up his beard. Hello. So I took a piece of green clay and I made a fig leaf. And then I shaped it to the body. I baked it and then I glued it to the gnome. And guess what? That's it. I stuck a butterfly on its head. What do you think? This is such a fun, really fun, easy craft. You get a lot of detail for not a lot of work. Thanks for being here. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making 5-minute sock gnomes and a holiday display. If you think they're cute, boop, boop, stick around and let's make them. Please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. So if you are new here, I have a Cricut machine and I used that to cut out the word gather from chipboard. I then painted it gray and added white accents on the edges. If you do not have a Cricut, don't worry. The Dollar Tree always has these cool galvanized metal signs, and they're really neat because they come in gather or harvest, but you can use any sign, any holiday. If you're new here, I'd like to ask you,
with a friendly gnome reminder to subscribe. How? Just click that red subscribe button below and then the bell for turning on all notifications. Now let's get back to Sarah and the crafts.
All right, if you're new here, I'm super proud of that because I made it an animator all by myself. All right, so we're going to make a posh sock gnome. Now, if you're not familiar with that, it's okay. I just made it up. We're going to take a long knee-high sock. We're going to add weight to the bottom. I use poly beads with a little polyfill at the top. And then I'm going to wrap the rest of that sock all the way around that body. We're going to roll it in our hands and we're going to make it smooth. See how smooth it gets? It's lovely. I'm going to show you the difference in just a second. So you're going to do that, make sure everything is glued down. We don't want anything shifting or moving. And then we're going to repeat this for the second gnome. Now, it doesn't matter if you tuck it in, roll it down. That part isn't what's important. What's important is that you use everything to get it the smoothest way, the smoothest body as possible. And here we go. I'm going to show you why. If you look at this, this is what a sock gnome looks like normally. This is what it looks like, a very nice, smooth, rounded off body. So just FYI, posh gnome. There you go. All right, so now if you've never made a gnome hat, ooh, I'm about to rock your world. It's super easy to do if you're making a slouchy hat. Super easy. You're going to want to cut as wide a fabric with an additional 1/2 to 1 inch seam allowance. And then you're going to hem the bottom if it's a frayable fabric like this buffalo check. But you see how instead of cutting a triangle, we cut a triangle with a few inches down there at the bottom? That's going to make all the difference in really putting a lot of weight into your hat. So what you do after you have the bottom hemmed, all you're going to do is create a faux seam. Now, I will always tell you to use fabric hot glue. I use it. I think it makes a difference. So I'll put a link down somewhere below with the one I use. Okay. So we're going to turn the hat inside out, use a chopstick to poke out that very tippy top point, and then test fit it on our gnome. We're also going to repeat it for our little girl gnome. Okay, so I have a video if you've never cut faux fur. Here's a big tip. Don't go at it with scissors. I do normally make wrap-around beards. Anything that's going to be on display, the beard would go all the way around. But I wanted to show you the body just in case I didn't remember to get a shot of it. Oh, here we go. This is the funnest part of making gnomes. Brush out that hair, make it all pretty, and then style, if you would like, a beard or a mustache right there. So I'm using a clay nose. You can use wooden beads, anything you have on hand. I also have a very detailed video on how to make gnome braids. I'll link that. But you are going to start out with 3 strands of about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch pieces of faux fur.
And you can either taper them now or taper them at the end. You're going to braid them so that the fabric backing is hidden and then it's wider at the top than it is on the bottom, just like a little girl's hair, right? Okay, so we're going to tie off the bottom with some embroidery thread and a coordinating color for your hat. And you're also going to tie off that top piece as well, just so nothing ever comes undone. All right, you're going to repeat that. Oh, so this is the tip. If you want, you can taper the very bottom of your strands. You can do it now or in the beginning. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to make a nice little poof ball. See, that comes together. And so we're going to repeat that for our braids. Just make sure you like where they are. You can go higher or lower on these. We're going to add the glue where the fabric backing is against the body. And then we're going to put those down. Make sure those are actually secure. Excuse me. Put on your hat and then squish up the hat and put on your nose. A little bit of hot glue here and straight on there. All right, so we're not done with all that yet because right now we're going to make some arms. So I'm using a Dollar Tree foam hair roller. It's got a bendable wire in the middle. And so I just cut it in half. I'm taking a piece of fabric that matches our hat and I'm going to hem one side, that's our outer edge, and I'm going to hem where the hand is going to go. And then I'm just going to hot glue it and then roll the arm all the way up to cover it. Hot glue it there. There you go. Pull off any extra threads like I have there and then cut it. And now we're just going to test fit it up under our hat and then we're going to put a clay bead for our hands. You can use a wooden bead, you can use a button, you can make a mitten out of felt, anything you'd like. And we're just going to repeat that, excuse me, for the second arm. They're coming together, the little Gnome. I'll stop singing. I'm sorry. Okay, so now we're going to make sure we get both little hands added. Hello, Gnome. And then we're going to repeat it for the little girl. Now, to attach these, you are going to put hot glue underneath the arm and the hat. So be sure to pull the back of that hat down as far as you can get it. Now, as for the display, I ripped these off of some floral picks because I like the way they look. I used some stickable moss and a really big wooden, I don't know what they are, plank, a cut, I don't know. But I just made these little, I took the vines off of a different floral thing, put them on the dollar store pumpkins after ripping out their little stems, and then I just glued everything down. So you can see here, I'm just kind of just crafting, you know, use what you have. Some of this I had in my stash. So just make sure you like where you're placing everything. And that stickable moss is really cool. You don't have to glue it down, but it will come off. But I did glue down my gnomes. I have a dog and a child, and these things just have to happen. All right, so we're going to glue down the fella, glue down the girl, and then we're just going to finish placing where everything goes. You can see I'm just ripping off. I change my mind a lot, so it takes me a lot before I glue things down. So there I'm just building up one, and I'm just going to snip off one of these curly cues and put it right on this other bare pumpkin. And again, these are just picks. You can get these at Dollar Tree, any craft store, and then you're just going to glue them down. And guess what? Oh, wait, got to glue her down too. We're going to glue their hands to hold the sign as well because I wanted to make sure it didn't move around when I was doing it. But if you just put a light glue, you can change it. Look at them. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you like this? Do you like me sharing the ideas to display your gnomes? Hey, thanks for joining me. As always, please like this video and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots for more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today I am sharing one of my favorites, the Scarecrow Icelandic Lovey Gnome. You can sew, you can glue, but if you would like to make him with me, just boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, we are making this guy today. He is so much fun. I'm going to be sharing a few new details for this tiered tray size gnome. This is the Icelandic Lovey pattern. There are 7 hats, feet, arms, reversible hats even, so it's a really stocked full pattern. Okay, so I'm going to be using a little bit of felt, a little bit of cotton fabric, and burlap. I'm also going to be using regular gnome making supplies, a sewing machine or hot glue gun. We're going to be using poly beads to fill and poly fill to stuff. So as I mentioned, this is either is both a sewing or a no sewn pattern. I've shared this in the 4th of July Icelandic Lovey Gnome already. Okay, so for the hat, I'm going to use burlap because the body actually makes the structure. So I'm going to hot glue hem this. You can sew burlap, but I'm going to show you a little bit later why you shouldn't, or at least you should do some things before you sew it up. So speaking of sewing, I'm just going to take this and follow the pattern for the seam allowance and for the structure of the body. Once I have the body, I'm going to attach the base. Very simple. If you're new to sewing, just don't use white thread. I'm only using white so you can see what I'm doing. You're going to use a coordinating thread. So if you are sewing, this dart system is super easy to make. We're going to go from where the pattern indicates all the way out to the hemline. If you are sewing, or I'm sorry, if you are hot gluing, I have shared in detail how to make this seam with hot glue. It is in the 4th of July Icelandic gnome lovey pattern. Whew, that's a lot of words. All right, so we're going to set that aside and move on to the booties. These are specific to this pattern. You won't see these anywhere else. And the reason is you can use them as legs if you extend this leg part here, or you can use them as just booties and put them directly up against the body. So you'll see here, this piece is a little bigger than it needs to be, and that's just to make it easier to sew. We'll be trimming that off. Do pay attention to the pattern on how high to stitch up, because if you stitch too high, you won't be able to turn your little booties outside right. Ask me how I know. Okay, so you're just gonna do the other booty, and then if you want to make arms, also do that. Again, I'm not going to sew this because I want to show you some really cute things to do. All right, so before we flip everything outside right, we're gonna go ahead and trim up our booty. So yes, we're going to trim off the threads, but we're also going to trim all that bit on the outside bottom and the front of the shoe so that when we turn it outside right, it sits nice and flat. Be sure to roll those seams in between your fingers to make them sit better. You see how cute it is? It's super cute, but don't use white thread because it will show. If you do only have white thread, go ahead and take a color fast marker to your thread only, and it'll hide it just perfectly. All right, so I wanted to show you there, it's not all the way sewn up, and that's okay. So go ahead and redo the other booty, and go ahead and do the same thing, flip everything out, and be sure to poke out the tippy top of your body. As you can imagine, if you're not new here, we're going to fill it up. So I'm using poly beads, which do not absorb odor, moisture, attract rodents or anything, and then I'm going to stuff the rest of the body quite full with poly fill. You can use Dollar Tree pillows, you can use low-cost pillows from big box stores, whatever you can find. But it's cute, right? I'm just showing you the bottom there. Okay, so this part is optional as well, but I really think it always adds something, you know, little special. If you'd like to use a wire, you're going to be putting the wire inside the body for this one. It's built all in one. Be sure to turn down or loop over the top and bottom of that wire so it doesn't poke through as you've moved it around. And the last part for this little body piece here is just to sew it up, close it with hot glue. So one thing here, again, you do not have to make this pretty, but you absolutely can. You can make a ladder stitch, or what I prefer, you know, the Frankenstein stitch, because I don't do well with sewing. And to hide it, I'm just going to poke the needle through the body, pull it taut, and then cut it off. Hides it. And you have a nice little posable body. These are not load-bearing shoes. They can be, but I just think one day they'll fail unless you put some really heavy stock into that ankle. But I'm using them as just fluff, so I fill them full of polyfill, and then I'm going to sew up a little bit of this thing. I'm going to use the shaft as just booties, but if you want to use them as legs, you're going to sew it up without tucking anything under, okay? So I'm going to not only tuck it here, but I'll tuck it a little bit later. So here we go, I'm just tucking up that top edge, or tucking down that top edge, and then I'm going to glue it. And again, if you want longer legs instead of just the booties, you can skip this part and just sew it all the way up, or glue it all the way up on the shaft. All right, so just tie that off, and then we're going to repeat that for the second booty, which I won't bore you with, but you see how there's a little bit of leg there? All right, I'm not going to show you this. Let me fast forward through this. Okay, so now you can see we've done both of them here. All right, and for the beard, I'm using a very rough and rugged brown fur. It's a couple of different colors. It's got some random piece hanging off right there. All right, so I just pull it out, making sure there's no fluff, and then I'm going to cut it just a little bit into sort of a triangle shape, more of like a rounded off V, and then make sure don't get any fluff anywhere. All right, so now that we have all of our pieces, we're going to be folding over the burlap hem that we did. Now, burlap is porous, quite in fact, because there's holes all in it. So because we hemmed it, it's actually A, not going to run, and B, going to take the glue pretty well for the actual back seam. Just make sure that your glue is not going through the hat and you're not gluing the back of the hat to the front of the hat. Yeah, I've done that. Okay. Is super cute. Okay, so to make this look a little more rustic without our hat unraveling, I'm going to cut off pieces of burlap after I've glued them to the hat. So you can see here that long edge. To get that long edge, if you're new to working with burlap, you just yank one of the horizontal pieces. It's like a little string, just yank that and it'll give you that nice little fringe. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue this down, make sure it doesn't go anywhere, and then I'm gonna cut it off. It's super easy. But I like this because I've had to answer a lot of questions where people either bought someone's gnomes that had burlap and started to unravel, or makers saying, uh-oh, I have this problem, what do I do? This is how you solve that. And you can make as much fringe as you want by pulling off those horizontal pieces and without unraveling your hat. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that here on the top front of the hat all the way down that edge. And it looks really cute, by the way, if you don't make it all even, just FYI. So here I'm gonna just do the front. I would get your hot glue finger guards if you like fingerprints, because I did burn myself here. Shocker. I know. But you can see I'm just pulling off horizontal pieces to give it a little more fringe. Now I'm gonna test fit the hat. And so I'm gonna do this. This is 1000% optional, but a little cut and a little window I think is gonna be adorable for a patch. You can always put patches on the top of the fabric, but I think with burlap, because you can make it all kind of rough looking, it's always cuter to put it on the bottom side. So what we're gonna do is just cut a hole in the burlap, kind of fray it just a smidge, and then we're going to glue down a larger piece than we need. And the reason we're gonna do that is because it's gonna give our burlap the ability not to fray beyond that glue point, right? So if you don't like the amount of fray, you can go and get the little cast off pieces and glue those right on the inside, and it looks like it's, you know, kind of rough and frayed, which is a whole lot better than it actually fraying, right? We don't want it to come undone. Okay, so I'm going to put it back on the gnome. I'm just using a little bit of hot glue for that one. I'm gonna put it back on the gnome, and then I'm gonna cut a couple more of these little windows because I fell in love with the first one, if I'm being honest. So I draw all of my gnomes. Some of you know that. So I always like to do things that may be a little harder to do in crafting than they are in theory. And this is always one of my things, is I always like the rough look without actually unraveling anything. And so I needed to use it as much as I possibly could on this little guy, because it's perfect for it. And so I'm just gonna cut off any of the excess there. And I think the one at the top is probably my favorite. I don't know why, but I'm gonna cut another one here. I'm just gonna speed this part up so you don't have to, but I fell in love with this. I thought it was just the most fun thing ever. That one's my favorite. All right, so once you have that all done, make sure you're not gluing anything to each other. We're going to slip on the hat and then figure out where all of our pieces go. So here we are. We're going to put on our rather robust beard. You don't have to cut a huge beard. It does save on cost if you make a smaller beard. And then if you're using legs, it also will be nice to see those. I'm just using booties, which is why I'm using a very robust beard. All right, so I'm going to move those out of the way and make sure I understand where my nose needs to be. So go ahead and split the fabric or the fur to the fabric backing, add a generous portion of hot glue and glue on your nose, which can be a clay round, a wood round, a wood bead, a wood half round, pom-pom, pantyhose stuffed with fluff, anything you would like for a nose. This one is clay. It's about 1 inch round. So I slipped the hat on, and I'm going to be sure to glue down my hat right to the tip of my nose because that's just sort of the scrunch that I like. And I'm just going to position the hat. You can glue down the back of the hat as well once you have everything where you'd like it. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be even further tucking in these little shoe booty things so that I can have just short legs. Add a generous portion of hot glue all up in there and then squish it into the body. And then squish it over there too. And guess what? You're all done. I love him. What do you think of him? Let me know in the comments below. Boop. And what's going to be really fun is, hey, why don't you guys name him? So I get asked all the time whether I name my gnomes. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. You let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today I am sharing a no pattern needed cozy fall gnome. If you would like to make him with me, just boop, stick around. As always, please give this video a like so I know you're here crafting with me. So this is the cutie we're making, 9 inches of cozy cuteness. He is going to take about 15 minutes. I'm going to use a Dollar Tree men's sock, some fleece, and fur. I'm also going to be using weight, fill, a hot glue gun, and a nose. I am using a 1-inch wood round for the nose, but you can use a pom-pom, some, pantyhose stuff with fill. You can use anything you'd like. So because I'm going to add a little decoration to mine, I'm going to get out my Cricut maker, and I'm going to use a little bit of this heat transfer vinyl. I'll draw a pumpkin in Illustrator and then have my machine cut it. If you do not have a Cricut or other cutting machine for a little accoutrement, you can just add a pumpkin, wood cutout. You can add leaves, you can add anything fall-like, even a raffia bow. Wouldn't that be cute on his little hat? And you can also, by the way, cut heat transfer vinyl by hand and apply it with an iron. So even if you don't have a cutting machine, you can do this. All right, so I'm just going to weed this heat transfer vinyl. Super easy, it's super soft. I love using HTV. And then I'm going to remove the little inserts here on the vine. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to be using this really soft, unbelievably, cuddly minky fleece, and I'm going to be using my mini press to put that onto my hat later. I'm using a men's trouser sock that I got at the Dollar Tree and 1 to 1.5 cups of poly pellets for weight. Do not use food products. You can use aquarium gravel or clean sand inside of plastic bags. Those work great. All right, so I'm going to use 2 very generous portions of polyfill. You can use anything you get at the craft store, or you can use the inside of pillows you get at stores like Walmart or other big box stores. Once I like the height, I'm actually going to distribute the polyfill with my hands just by rubbing it around a little bit and kind of like moving it. And then I'm going to tie a large knot on the top, and this is what it looks like. Again, if you want, you can kind of crease the inside. Boop. You can crease the inside to make sort of a little waistline. I'm going to add hot glue right to the knot to make sure that it doesn't come undone, right up there as well, and then let that dry. He's cute already. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so for the hat, this is like the world's easiest hat. You're gonna cut 2 panels of 8.5 inch wide by 14.5 inch tall triangles. That's it. Doesn't have to be pretty and perfect. Look at mine. They're not. It doesn't matter because we're going to hot glue hem these 2 panels together. If you don't have a very large bulbous gnome, drop that down to 7 inches wide, just so the hat isn't swallowing your gnome. The next step here, on which I'm going to fast forward, is just using a hot glue hem on both long edges of the triangle. That's literally it. Isn't this the best? While that's drying, head over to rufflesandrainboots.com, hit the magnifying glass, and type in Fall Gnome. A world of fun little crafts await you, from pumpkin spice and rock paintings to scarecrows, adorable scarecrows, and even more fun sock gnomes. All right, so let's head on back over to this. If you would like to use a trim, you do not have to do this step, but I was going to just give it a quick hem, so I'm turning up the bottom and hemming this before we turn it right sides out. So you can see I'm going to add a little extra glue onto the hem line over there so that they don't poke out when we turn it right sides out. Speaking of turn it right sides out, we can just go ahead and grab the top of that and pull it right through. Do use a chopstick or the blunt edges of your scissors to go ahead and poke out that little tip at the very, very, very top. And now I'm going to use my, you can see it over there, my Easy Press Mini on medium. So I didn't put the Teflon sheet above this because this is a quick and easy one. Pull it off and whoop, you're done. That's like really how it happens, y'all. That's why I love working with vinyl. All right, so I'm just gonna get a rough measurement for a wraparound beard, and then I'm going to choose the height based on the pile of fur. So I do want the fur to lay on the table, which means I'm just gonna cut it about 1.5 inches higher than it needs to be for the bottom of the gnome. And then I'm just going, so you can see here, Buttigieg, look at all that floofers. Okay, so we're going to take the very top and add hot glue to that so that we can make sure we like where we position it. Once we like where we position it, we can glue down the rest of it and just sort of pull it to, you know, like that. Just pull it together, makes it a wraparound gnome. All right, so the next step is to slip on this hat. So like I said, I'm going to be using a nice big floofy hat. I'm going to push up the very front of the hat, which is why I chose to put my pumpkin a little higher. And so I'm going to split the fur to the fabric backing, see it right there, and then I'm going to add my 1-inch wood round right there with an intense nose boop. Before I move on, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue right to the top of that nose so that I can press down the front of the hat, and then flip it over, pull the back of the hat down, and add hot glue on the back. And guess what? You're done. What would you name this guy? Let me know down in the comments. As always, you can check out more gnomes here on the channel. Thanks for joining me. Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making a no-sew standing posable Scarecrow gnome. He has a ton of cool details, and as always, if you would like to make him, just boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now this guy is not tiny. He's 16 inches tall, made with the bubble gnome and a free boot pattern. You can get both of those links down below. To get started, I'm going to be using basic gnome making supplies, craft paper, some jeanish material, cottons, felts, fur, and a little hay bale. So you can get those at the Dollar Tree too. All right, so this fur is gorgeous. We're also going to need some dowels for the legs. So using the bubble gnome pattern, this is the only change I'm making. So on the hat, we're going to cut off the hook, but keep everything else the same. And why we're going to do this is because it just looks more rough and rugged. Now when you're gluing this up, leave holes. And I know that sounds weird, but if you leave a couple of holes, it's going to be so cool. Just make sure they're not directly across from each other because we need to have a little bit of structure to keep this up. So I'm just going to make this per the pattern except for those holes. And on the body, you're going to do the same exact thing that it calls out whether you're sewing or hot gluing. We're just going to attach it all right sides together and then flip everything out once the hot glue is dried. So I'm going to start with the hat, and you'll see here it's just going to come out really easily. Don't stick your finger through the holes. Alright, so I'm going to be adding a lot of details to that hat in just a second, but let's start with the body. So after I turn it right side out, I'm going to fill it with poly beads, mostly because I get them all over the place as well, mostly about halfway up, and then I'm going to finish stuffing that with poly fill. Now you can get this at any craft store or inside of any pillow. For the arms, I'm going to use a nice little cotton plaid here. I thought it was very farmy looking. I'm going to create 2 rectangles. The details are in the pattern, of course, but I'm not going to glue them all the way down. I'm going to leave about 1/2 inch at the bottom so I can flip this up and create a nice even seam or hem. Now I know you could leave it, you know, all rough and tumbly, but I'm going to be using a little bit of straw in some places and I didn't want it to unfray.
We're going to do that for the second arm as well. Let them dry and then turn them right sides out. So I'm just going to start with one end and then use my dowel or a pencil to help me push out the entire thing all the way through. If you're using the Dollar Tree foam rollers, you can just wrap the fabric around the roller. So I'm using the free winter booties pattern, that link will be down below, but I'm going to be using it a little differently. This has always been a load-bearing or a standing gnome booty. However, now we're going to use hot glue. I do recommend you getting foam core and cutting them exactly this way. So you're going to use the bottom part of the booty to trace the ovals, but you're actually going to be cutting it inside of that booty. So we're going to build this a little odd, but we need it to be just inside that bottom part. All right, so I'm just going to be using this and just cut it exactly inside. I'm going to shave off just a little bit more there. And then you can see it fits inside, so we can move on to the second one before we start assembling these. To assemble, we're going to put right sides together. I know it's hard to tell with felt, but we're going to put them right sides together and just do the front. So all the way up the ankle and all the way down the front. Now that has to dry. Let it dry completely before you turn it in, or before you mess with it. So before you turn it inside out, we're going to attach half of the base piece, and we're just going to start at one end. I recommend the front, and then you're going to go all along the outside here of the booty. So you're just going to match up the two edges just like a sandwich, right? And go all the way, only halfway through, okay? So go all the way to mid shaft in the heel, let that dry, and then turn the entire thing right side out. Here we go. And then use your finger to sort of make the hot glue a little bit like more pliable on that seam, and we have another chance to fix that. Then you're going to go ahead and slip that disc of foam board inside. Now you're going to just attach it. I'm going to try and zoom in here. So you're going to pick up the center and sort of pleat it, and that way you can line up the two edges on the inside. Okay, so I know it's hard to explain, but once you see it, you just pull the glue out and then cut the glue off, and that creates a nice flat seam. So then we're going to push down that foam core. We don't have to glue it down because it is weight bearing. It's going to be built on top of it. I'm going to add hot glue to my dowel here and hold that until it sets. Now it'll still move around a bit, but once it's dry, you're going to add hot glue all the way around it, making sure not to get it on your booty. Once that's set, you're going to add a little bit of weight. You can add mini rocks, anything you want, but I have poly beads and it totally works. So we're going to make sure those get distributed all throughout the inside of the shoe. And then we're going to use polyfill to stuff it all the way around that dowel. So you can see I'm pushing all this stuff in here. I'm going to add a little bit more just to make sure my booties are even, but I want to make sure that dowel is somewhat in the middle. See how that one little, it's like kind of off center. So I'm going to compare it to my other one and end up stuffing a little bit more polyfill so I can get the right, see, I can stuff it all the way in the front and then add a little bit more to make sure they're even. Oops, look, now you can see the side of what they look like too. All right, so now that they're mostly even, there you go, mostly, we're going to move on to the legs. I will tell you, I tried a thinner leg base than other ones I've made with this bubble gnome pattern. I would highly recommend sticking to the thicker leg base. This is just craft paper. It's a little bit like cardstock. It's like toilet paper roll heavy. So you can use a toilet or paper towel roll for this as well. But you're going to want to create a tube of some kind. So I will tell you, I'll give you a hint. Watch, I'm going to stop this here and I'm going to show you. I could have gone wider with this tube. You need to make it wider. This is not as sturdy. I had to glue the feet together, I could glue the feet together to make it sturdy, but I didn't want to. I'll just say when you have a wider leg base, it really does help. For the pants, I'm just going to fray up some of my daughter's old leggings. I'm going to cut the bottoms, cut any seams off, and make sure I have enough height that I can cover the entire leg height and flip down that top. I'm just going to put right sides together and make a nice little hot glue seam here on the edge and repeat that for the other leg. Once they were dry, I just flipped them right sides out and then I slipped them over the dowel and rolls and then I pulled them over the top of the booty. So I'll show you that here. After I do the second one, just slide them over the top and then pull the bottom out around the booty.
I like saying booty. No, just kidding. All right, so I'm using my dowel cutters, aka dull scissors, to cut off those dowels, and then I'm going to tuck under the top of the legs. For the body of the jeans, because this will be visible in the back, I just cut like a trapezoid shape by wrapping the jean material around it, and then I'm going to hem the top edge of the like waistband. And you could even make cute little pockets or whatever. I was not making that. All right, so now I'm going to put right sides together and make my little tube for my jeans. I just wanted to show you what my table looks like, and if anybody walked in, it'd be very embarrassing. I have gnome parts everywhere. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this stuff down, just pleating it. And if you do pay attention to make one side sort of a seamless edge, and that'll be his booty. All right, so all we're gonna do is stand these legs up, put a generous portion of hot glue, and I do mean generous, all along the top of the paper, the dowel, everything, and then stick and hold that leg on. Do the other leg, and if you're impatient, I'll give you a little trick. That is to go get a wire that's quite pokey and poke it all the way through. And this is great when you're building it and you don't want to wait. Don't want to wait around. All right, so I'm just going to, that tuck over edge there, I'm just going to pull it up and glue it all the way around on both legs. Just to make sure it's all hidden. All right, so you can see his little booty. I'm going to cut off that wire and fold it down just to make sure it doesn't poke out anything or anyone. Press it down. But you can do that on both sides, and you can add a little stability there if you'd like. All right, so now I stuffed the hat. You can see over there, I end up taking quite a bit of that out, and I'm just cutting some patches and fraying the edges of this cotton fabric. I'm gonna glue these patches a couple of different places on the jeans, and then for the hat, remember those holes that we left? I'm going to fold over the outside edge of the felt so it looks finished, and then I'm going to use little patches all over the hat. So some of them I just glued on without a hole, some of them I made a hole. So this one is one of the big side ones, and I'm gonna glue two individual pieces of fabric on that I had frayed, and then I'm going to add a lot of fun stuff to the middle. Speaking of the fun stuff, it's all the stuff that falls out when you open one of these hay bales. That's all I'm using. You could use raffia, but I figure this, knowing the fallout of these hay bales, I figure this is what I was going to use. And all we're going to do is add a whole bunch and then glue it together and press in some of these. There you go. And do that up in the other places. So here I cut a hole in the back of the hat, added some straw, and stuck on a patch. I added a little bit of straw, well, kind of a lot of straw in the top, and I also added it to the base of his booties, and inside some of the patches on his legs. For my faux fur, I'm using this really cool ruffy, style looking fur, and I'm going to create a trapezoid after creating a rectangle. I'm only cutting the back of the fur on the fabric backing. I'm going to slip on the hat, make sure I have the beard where I want it, glue it down, split the fur to its fabric backing, add a generous portion of hot glue, and then stick on a big old wood bead. In order to find my placement for everything, including the arms, I have to make sure I like my hat. I ended up stretching and folding up the brim of this hat just to make it look a little bit more rough and rugged. Felt is super easy to stretch. So I'm gonna glue the little hem up on the hat, and then I'm gonna glue that front part of the hat to the nose. For the arms, I'm just using wire and polyfill, but you can again use anything you would like. If you don't want posable arms, that's fine. You don't have to use them. Another way you can get posable arms is using the Dollar Tree foam rollers. They're hair rollers. But I'm just going to secure this wire on both sides of my arm before stuffing and then adding a wood round for the hands. I'm just holding these arms on so I can figure out where to put the patches, and then I'll glue them on in just a second, but I wanted to add a couple of details. So I'm always going to glue the arms to the body and then the hat to the arms, give him a quick lint rolling, and that's it. What do you think of this standing gnome? Will you make him? Let me know what you would name him. As always, get the premium and the free pattern below, and thank you so much for joining me. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi there friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we are making the wild gnome pattern in a mushroom style. He takes 20 minutes, needs a sewing machine, and if you'd like to make him, boop, stick around.
As always, please like this video so I know you're here. Now, of course, I need to show you the front, the back, the top. It's so cute. He's 5 inches and you can get the pattern down below. We're gonna need that pattern, some fur, fabrics for the top and the base, and then we're also gonna need a sewing machine, needle and coordinating threads, and your glue gun. Okay, so we're going to start by tracing the pattern to our fabric pieces and cutting everything out. It is a stage sewing, which makes it easy, so we're just going to first start off with this mushroom cap, pinning and sewing that straight line. Next up, we're going to pin the vertical on the body and then go to a sewing machine. Pin the insides or the right sides together of the mushroom top and the gill piece, which is the one with the circle in it, and then start and reverse your stitches and hem it all the way around on that outside edge. Then you're going to turn it right sides out, roll your fingers in the seam, and then set that aside. Next, we're going to move to the body, which is super simple, also stage. We're going to sew up this vertical first. This is a start and reverse stitch as well. And then I'm not going to ruin the surprise, but there's a little bit in the pattern here that calls out what to do with these humps. We're going to pin them and sew them per the pattern instructions. Next up, we're going to put the right side of the base in toward the body, and then we're going to pin that edge all the way around. So if you're not new to sewing, 4 pins will suffice. If you are new to sewing, add a lot of them. I normally would do 4, but I want to show you. I get a lot of questions about sewing bases on. It's super easy. You just have to have confidence in yourself. If you mess it up, undo your stitches. That's okay. So here you go. I'm going to do it for beginner. Just put a pin every 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, whatever you'd like, all the way around. Make sure where the edges come together for the seam that's flat. That's really the only tricky part. Next up, you're going to start and reverse that stitch, and you're going to be moving the body out of the way when you're going all the way around the base. You start and end in the very same spot, and then when you remove the pins, you can see here, just turn it outside right sides out, and you're good. All right, so we're going to fill with poly beads. I use these because they are non-allergenic, no scent, and do not absorb moisture. We're going to fill it halfway and then the rest with polyfill. Do keep your polyfill near you because we're going to need it a little more later. Tuck it in there, make sure you get a bit in that little bump out piece, and then grab your needle and thread. We're going to sew this up. So it's a little opening, we're just going to sew it up. It takes about 30 seconds real time, but I'm going to save you watching me hand sew anything. And then when I get halfway up, I'm not going to undo anything. We're going to fill up as much as we can because this is going to fill into the mushroom cap. So we want it very full and very solid. I get questions a lot about how much to fill the body. Squeeze it, make sure it bounces back, you know you're done. And yes, that was me stabbing myself with the needle. I double knotted it and then I pressed the needle through the body, pulled it tight, and then cut the thread. Going back to our mushroom cap, we're going to add some polyfill only along that outside edge, that rim, because again, the body is going to make up the middle. Cute, right? So if you think you may have stuffed it too little or too much, just put it onto your body and just align the seams, make sure you like the way it looks, move the fill around before moving to the next step. Okay, go and grab your embroidery thread and a needle. You're going to need about 36 inches. Knot the one end after you've threaded it, and then you're going to go in through the center and out almost where the 2 fabrics meet, so just under that, and then go back through the center. So you're not poking it through, just going back through the center and about a 1/2 inch away from where you started. I have done gills about 30 different ways, and this is the easiest and it looks the best. I've tried pleating, I've tried the sewing machine, I've tried adding fabric. This is the best. If you're new to Ruffles and Rain Boots, I have a very popular taller mushroom pattern. It's a no-sew pattern, and this is the same exact method I used on the gills. This took me real time, like about 1.5 minutes to do. So if you accidentally pull out your thread like I did right there, boom. Just get your needle back in, go in right next to where you came out, and then just tie this off on the inside of one of those gills. So you can see mine shifted a little bit during sewing. You can move those threads around to make everything even because they're not sewn down. All right, to make sure you like everything, line up those seams, pull on your hat, and we're gonna move on. One of my favorite parts. I'm using Mongolian fur here for the beard because I love it, but you could also use yarn. You can use wool roving would look cool. I just cut the bottom 2 corners off, and it's about 3 inches, and here's my favorite part. Ooh, brushing out. I love the transformation of this stuff. Anyway, back to it. We are going to make sure that we put our faux fur as high as the edge of the seam, and I'll show you right there. So we want to make sure that it's covered by our hat. So put that bead of glue along the top, and if you like where you placed it, go ahead and glue it all the way down. I used a comb to split the fur to its fabric backing. There goes my nose. I added a generous portion of hot glue and placed a clay ball that I had made right in there. You can use a wool felted ball, you can use a half round, you can use a wood bead, anything you'd want. All right, so now that we have that in place, we're going to squish on this hat again, pulling down in the back after you've lined up the seams. Now, the only thing I would say on this is add glue to the body right above the nose, and then make sure that piece is where you like it. Then move to the back, glue that down, and then the sides. You can play with this so you can get different looks depending on how far you pull that hat down. It's really fun. Okay, for my last little piece of my Amanita muscaria mushroom here, I'm just cutting organic shapes from the same fleece material that I used on the body and gills. So I'm just gonna hot glue those down randomly. And then because all of this is white and I'm an extremely messy crafter, I gave him a lint roll all over. I manicured his beard a little bit. And then he's done. He's ready for the big show. What do you think of him? Let me know in the comments below. Also below you can get that new wild mushroom pattern or wild gnome pattern. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rainboots, and today I am making this sunflower gnome. He is gorgeous with a ton of fun details. If you would like to make him, boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, you may have everything you need. I have the cozy pattern, the sunflower pattern, and the shoe pattern. Bam! All of those come together. The first step is to cut out our petals, which you can do by hand or stick it in your Cricut maker. Either way is fine. Next up, we're going to cut out our body piece. If you do have the cozy pattern, remember it's 2 pieces for the body because this is one tall fella. I'm just using felt off of the bolt. I'm going to cut out this big body piece, and then I'm going to cut out the hat and the base piece for the body. So you can see I have my beard, my shoes, my sunflower pieces, and now I'm going to get ready to sew it. So I'm just going to put right sides together of the body piece and sew it up exactly per the pattern it's going to call out. For the hat, however, we're going to pin the whole thing, but we're not going to sew the whole thing. And you can put all those sunflower pieces to the side because we're not going to take those to the sewing machine. Go over to your sewing machine and start with the hat. Be sure to leave 1.5 inches at the base of the hat unsewn. Then sew the base and the body together. Flip the body right sides out and roll the seam in your fingers at the base. It's going to be able to sit flat. Do push out that tip with a pair of scissors or a pencil, but do not turn the hat. We need it exactly like that. All right, so for the fill and weight, I am going to use poly beads, which are non-odor and non-moisture absorbing. I do recommend that. And then the rest of it, you can just use polyfill. I'm going to be using polyfill from Joann's. However, you can use any pillow insert fill from big box stores or the Dollar Tree. For those of you who love to sew, good for you. I don't. But here's my Franken stitch. It's also formerly known as a ladder stitch to close this up. You can hot glue this, by the way, and you want to use coordinating colored thread. I, however, am showing you what I'm doing. Be sure to roll that whole body piece in your hands to make sure you distribute the polyfill evenly. From the beard I made yesterday, I am going to cut out a nice little V, a rounded V shape, and that's going to be my very robust ombre beard. I'm going to use hot glue to attach this to the body, but you can absolutely hand sew it on if you would like. I try and limit my hand sewing. All right. Once that's on, this is how the hat is going to go. So I wanted this yellow to show, so I'm going to put it just over the yellow. We do need this open V, okay? So I'm going to end up flipping those up and securing them down, but first I'm going to split the fur to the fabric backing, add a generous portion of hot glue, and press my nose down. Now I'm going to start building the hat, but first I need to put the glue in the back. If you want to use arms, don't glue down the sides. All right, so in order to get started with our hat, I'm going to use that green piece in the pattern, and I'm just going to start folding over the very top edge. I'm going to then get a thin piece of floral wire. You don't want a really thick gauge for this because you want it really pliable, because this gets a little twisty, friends. We're not twisted, it's just we're making twisty things. Okay. All right, so all I'm going to do is just glue this fabric, or glue this felt and wire together. I am going to fold over the edges here. You can see I'm going to fold one edge in onto itself, and then I'm going to wrap the other side over with the wire. I just think it gives it a nicer finish, but you don't have to do that, because when we twist it, and you'll see it up close, when we twist it, it all looks sort of like seamless. All right, so that's a little preview. Don't do that now though, because it's gonna pop open if you keep doing it. I learned that. Ask me how I know. All right, so once you're about to the break of our stem piece here, you're going to put it onto your hat and finish closing it. So we're going to glue it to the hat as well, but make sure you wrap around the green piece, and that's because you're going to have to do less petals. The petals take a little more work than this piece, so, you know, there you go. All right, so before I do move on, I'm going to wrap this all the way around and then cut off the excess of that wire, and I'm going to use it in my petals. There we go. All right, so for the petals, all you were going to do is take thin pieces of floral wire and put them right in the center of the petal. Don't go all the way down because we want like a little flip, but do press them in. And also press the felt around the wire on the underside. And that's just so you don't have to use two pieces of felt to hide that wire, because I'm lazy. All right, and then now you're just going to make a whole bunch more of those. I'm using two different colors of yellow felt, so like a brighter yellow and a darker yellow, but you can use orange and yellow. I mean, whatever you'd want. You can paint felt so you can have a nice ombre petal. Ooh, somebody should do that and then share it in the Facebook group, which will be linked down below. All right, so for the front, you can see I glued back those flaps, and now I'm going to cut the larger petals, just two of them, so that I can make them wrap right around the face. I think the face framing ones are the most important, so you'll see me here add those. I don't glue down the very, very bottom or end of that petal, just mostly. All right, don't throw away those cast-offs either, because what we'll do is we'll shape them with the scissors. You'll see in just a second, and then that way we can use them to fill in blanks and anywhere brown or green is showing that we don't want. So I'm going to speed this part up and then just start attaching petals. Some of them I put over, some of them I put under, but basically I'm just trying to cover up all that brown. That's it. And you go all the way up to the green. You can see I put one up there and then realized you can't build the top before you build the bottom, Sarah. Not that I haven't made this multiple times by the time I filmed this. I made this a couple years ago and I'm just getting around to editing it. So I know those of you who've been with me a long time know that this is not a new pattern. All right, so to take care of the top bit there, you can always petal out some greenery, but I'm going to cheat. I'm going to put a little strip of green felt up there, and then I'm going to twist it. And as I twist it, I'm going to glue it in place. And then in just a second, I'm going to go throughout the whole thing and start gluing down all those petals so that you don't see brown. But I just want to show you this part in detail where you're just twisting a little bit and then gluing it down. I did 2 rows of that so that it would all just be seamless and you couldn't see any brown or the tops of any yellow petals.
would get your finger guards out because I burned myself during this a lot too. Who needs fingerprints? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap that second one around there and just get everything secured down all the way around this guy. All my petals glued to the body or to the hat. Okay, so you can see it really close there. And then I'm gonna twist the top. And you'll get a real good close-up of that because of my awesome filming skills. All right, so if you've been with me a while, you know I have a very popular gnome shoes and boots pattern, and these sneakers are some fun ones to make. To cover up the styrofoam, I'm just adding the same brown felt I used for the body, kind of stretching and pulling it to make it all the way cover. And then I'm gonna position my two shoes together, glue them together, and then glue the gnome on top. So you can see I'm gonna glue it in the center. Look at that. Look at that stem. I am so good at editing. I'm just kidding. I'm really bad at it. If you want a job, let me know. All right, so for the arms, I'm not using the arms that come in the Cozy Gnome pattern because they're very long and elegant. I'm just gonna hand sew, AKA Franken stitch, cute little hands or arms, and I'm going to tuck those right up here, right at the edge of the hat. I'm gonna glue the arm to the body and then the hat to the arm. And then I'm going to add clay beads that I made with polymer clay, but you can use wood rounds, pom-poms, anything you'd like. For my decoration, I'm using a pre-made basket. It's like in the fairy section, you know, and I'm just going to cut these flowers off from a Dollar Tree sprig, stick them in there, and then glue the basket right to his little arm like so. For a little more stability and because it looked really cute and rustic, I gave him a walking stick. And yep, that came from my front yard. This is it, guys and gals. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also below, get all of the pattern links and ask any questions you may have. As always, thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandbrainboots.com, and today I'm making scrap busting gnomes. They are round. Very, very round with pre-made hats. And if you would like to make them, just boop, boop, stick around. As always, please give this video a like so I know you're here. It helps me out so much. All right, so this is what they look like. They are super cute. They're tiny or they're big, and they're basically whatever size you want to make them. Perfect for tiered trays, perfect to tuck in at the end of a craft booth. All right, so to get started, I just want to tell you, it took me 25 minutes for both of them. And these hats were given to me by one of our viewers, hello Linda, who said she has a lot of these and didn't know what to do with them. So just as a reference, these are purchased from Joann's and or Michael's, she couldn't remember, but they're 2 inches in that inside head area. We're going to use some regular gnome making supplies, weight, fluff, and fabric. This, I'm going to start with the farmer gnome. I'm using an 8-inch circle. This is a dinner plate. And so I'm just going to trace it onto the flannel. That's it. You can use a sewing marker, chalk, whatever. You can also use, there you go, a compass that you maybe appropriated from your daughter's craft supply. Just saying. All right, so we're just gonna cut that out, and it doesn't have to be perfect. This is not going to be seen, so just go ahead and cut that out quickly. In the center, you're gonna put your weight. So I'm just going to add this hot glue with, it's regular hot glue, it's not fabric hot glue or anything, just regular hot glue in these Dollar Tree rocks. I think they're vase filler, not real sure. And then I'm going to get a sturdy string of some kind. I have twine always, so I cut a bit of that. And then I'm going to add my fluff in the middle. You can use extra fabric scraps, cut-offs, whatever. And then this gets really technical. Ready? You just gather it up. So pinch the center in between, bring up the side, pinch that in between, bring up the other side, pinch that in between. And then as you bring in the edges or the corners, just go ahead and just push the fluff in towards the center so it doesn't come out the sides, and then gather it all up in your hands like so. And there's his booty. Okay, so then you're just gonna wrap a couple of times. I would recommend double times, and then wrap it around 2 times, and then knot it, and maybe triple knot it, because basically this is our entire thing here. So make sure that you can drop it, and it, there you go, and it kind of levels itself out. And you can even pull up the sides and make sure you like the pleats and where everything is for the back of him. But basically I'm just going to double knot it here and add hot glue so that it's sure not to ever come undone, and then snip that off. That's it. All right, so now the fun part, we get to decide what fur we want. So I'm gonna give you a little thing because I know people are gonna ask me. This is a swatch of fur from fabric.com. So it's a swatch, it's about $3. The bad part is that they cut it with fluff and you end up making a little fluff monster. But once you pull it all off, it's good for next time. All right, so I'm gonna make a 2-inch beard, cutting about a 1/2 inch down, and then just a U shape. Just like so, cutting only the fabric backing. So can you cut fur with scissors? Yes. Is it super duper slow? Yes. So just use a straight blade of some kind, a razor, an X-Acto knife, anything. All right, pull that off and make sure you can find the front, like whatever you want for the front, but there's going to be one where it's not quite even, but it always points up. You want that one. So you want the one that points up. And then we're just gonna glue this little piece of fur right around. That's it. Are you impressed at how easy this craft is yet? So I used a new fur, but this is obviously scrap busting because you only need about 8 inches square of fabric and you only need a couple of inches worth of fur. I am going to pull it around my center piece so it kind of fans out on the side. All right, so next up is a nose. I'm going to use some pre-made clay ones that I have only because I felt that the wood was a little too close to this blonde fur. It's only about a 2-inch pile fur. If you use a Mongolian, do make sure that your circle is a little bit bigger, otherwise it's just gonna be swallowing up in it. All right, so attach the nose. I'm going to split the fur to its fabric backing using the ends of my scissors. I mean, you can use a pencil, your fingernail, whatever. Just make sure that you can see the fabric backing and then add the hot glue right to that and then press your nose in, giving it an intense nose boop. Mine is uneven, so I was trying to find the best part of the nose. These are old clay noses. I love making noses from polymer clay. All right, so here he is. Look at him, he's so cute. Okay, now for the hat. So I've never seen these hats, so I have no idea if there's a front or if there's a back. So I don't really know if I did this right, but basically I wanted the nose to show, so I put the shorter side in the front. So that's the bigger side, but you see right there, it's a little shorter. So I don't know if that's right, but you could see his little face better, or lack of face better. So that's what I did. And to attach it, again, really technical, I put a whole bunch of hot glue on the top of that and then pressed it down. Yep, that's what I did. And then I put some on the top of the nose so that it would always be, down on the front. There you go. Again, really technical. And then just to secure it, because again, like dogs and kids and transit and everything, I just added a bit of hot glue. I pulled the body down and then added the hot glue and then pressed the body into the hat. So yeah, that's it. That's the whole craft. I think he's super cute, but I made him a little pipe. Like I kind of was trying to make it a corncob pipe, but then I got really lazy, so I just cut off 2 pieces of differently sized dowels, and then I took a marker and made a little middle part and then glued them together. Oh, if you are better at these kinds of things, make yourself a wheat, like one piece of wheat that you can be chewing on or something, but I'm not. So in order to attach it, I just lifted up the fur and kind of pulled it away and then put this down right onto the fabric backing of that fur. It's kind of tucked up under the nose as well for a little stability, but this is what his back looks like. His gnome booty. All right, so setting that one aside, I was gonna use this cute buffalo check, but then I figured why not try a different material than flannel to see if it worked, right? Because these are all experiments for me. I don't have a plan. They all pretty worked out, so that's nice, but they pretty much worked out. But I did a 10-inch circle for this one and did it the exact same way. So put my rocks in, put some fluff in, but because this one was so thick, I ended up going and doing a running stitch about a 1/2 inch from the edge all the way around. And the reason I did that is because I needed to control how much bulk was going to be in the top of that hat. So yeah, just throw those extra fabric scraps in there, some stuffing. I wanted to make her robust. And then that happened. So I redid the entire thing with a little bit of stitching, and then I cut braids, or ponytails actually, because I was too lazy. So for these, I took a 1/2 inch of fabric and then I just glued it in the fabric backing, just picked it up and glued it together. That's it. If you don't have one of those awesome little hot glue handle thingies, let me know if you want to know where I got it. It's cool. All right, then I glued those on, put a little hot glue right on the nose on the front and on the top of that big fabric thing, all the way around the back. And then I just added a little bit of ribbon that I got from one of the craft stores. And then I found these little spiders that I used to scare my daughter many, many years ago. Anyway, stuck one of those on the front and stuck one of those on the back. And I looked for the little brooms that I had bought, you know, last year, and I couldn't find them. But she'd be cute with a little broom, right? All right, I dovetailed the back of the, not dovetail, I don't know what that's called, but I made them look pretty and burned the ribbon on the edge. That one got fire. And then this is them. So these are really cute. You can make sachet gnomes this way really super easily. So if you have anything that you want to use up some supplies, these scrap busting things are perfect. If you come across the tiny hats, they're super. Let me know down in the comments below which one is your favorite. As always, thanks for being here, and why not watch another gnome video? I have plenty. Hi everyone, it's Sarah with Ruffles and Rain Boots, and I am here making a Facebook hit. I previewed these little mushroom cap gnomes on my Facebook page, Ruffles and Rain Boots, and you guys went crazy for them. I'm going to show you how to make 2 sizes with the gills, the beards, the arms, and we got to give them a little boop before we get started. If you'd like to make them, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now there are a lot of supplies, but I want to break this down. So you see these gills? I wanted the cute little mushroom cap, the body, and the gills to show. But I found out when I finished them at this size, this is what happened. You had this shadow and you had the gills sort of hidden under the bottom of that cap, and I wanted a little bit different. So what I did is I went back to my drawing here and I started looking at different sizes. If you go really, really big, you have to build that sort of, you can see a cardboard structure. I didn't want to make everybody do that. So we're going to start with a bigger gnome base, which means we need a heavier thing, so we'll get small rocks. I also would urge you to use something that doesn't require hemming. I'm using a very thick craft felt. It's called premium craft felt, and I will get this one and I'll show you this label. I accidentally ripped it. It's premium 12 by 18 and it's in the craft felt section. We're also, this is optional, but I'm going to use these adorable custom wooden buttons. They say Ruffles and Rain Boots and my little gnome there. If you'd like them, the link will be down below. Okay, and what else do we need? We need a nose and some hands if you're going to choose to make arms. And we need a cardboard box because we're going to make our circle. If you have anything bigger than 6 inches, a lid from my kitchen wouldn't work, so I had to make it with a compass. And I got a razor and faux fur. And we're going to start with my no-sewn gnome pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer our pattern onto some white fleece or whatever color you want, and we're just going to cut that out, your method, whatever you'd like. You can use any gnome body for this, but I do recommend something taller and narrower just because it looks like a mushroom. Okay, so once that is cut out, you'll follow the pattern instructions on assembly. Psst, it's super easy. That's why it's a best-selling pattern. All right, so I'll also put that pattern link down below, but we are going to sit here, let it dry, okay? But while we're sitting here and letting it dry, we're going to test something. So I wanted to see if I turned this inside out after it was dry, if you could see the rocks inside the fleece. And guess what? Oh, this is the last little part here of me. You can cut that part off. I think it adds stability, so I choose to glue it and tuck it under. But anyway, back to the rocks. So I wanted to see if all these multicolored rocks I got would show up through the body, and guess what? They did. So if the rocks can be seen, grab something that makes a circle. I made about a 5-inch circle here, and then I made a pouch. So all I did was cut a circle. It does not look like a real circle. Okay, I am not an artist. All right, so what I did was I just put some rocks in it, and then I sewed a running stitch around the entire thing, which means you don't have any knots. And then you just tie or pull the 2 ends of it together after you go in and out all the way around your little circle. And then you just tie it up. That's it. This is the best way to make a pouch. It's easy. It's also how I made the pom-pom gnomes, or pom-pom pets. I'll put the link to that video above. So once you have it, all you have to do is fill it up with your rocks, tie it off, and then we're going to shove it into the body of our gnome, right at the bottom. So I'll just tell you, roll it a little bit, make it skinny, and then tuck it in all the way. Now, do you have to do this? No, you don't. Should you do this? Yep, because I will tell you I made a different one and it kept falling over. Okay, so I added some poly beads as well to sort of go around those rocks. I spill them every single time. Anyway, so then I filled up the whole body all the way to the top with polyfill. I like this part. It's like the easiest part of making a gnome, just the polyfill. And I have no idea why my lights are doing that. Yeah. Okay, so once we have this, we are now going to move on to the hat. So the cap part, which is the colored part, I end up using a 6-inch for the small hat and a 7-inch for the large hat. And then we're going to cut a slit down that because that's going to help us size it. And then, because I don't apparently know how to cut things, I have to round mine off. You can see, there we go. Okay, so this one ends up being 7 inches for the large gnome, okay? So all I'm going to do to make it size, you can make it any size you want, is fold over the edges after you cut the slit in the center. And here I'm going to show you how to cut the slit. So before we can finish the hat, we have to get the bottom for the gills. A small is 4.5 inches, a large is 6 inches, and that's out of white fleece as well, or felt, whichever you want. So you can see it doesn't match up, but what we're going to do is we're going to end up pinning everything on the edge of the outside, and that's going to give our cap sort of the bounce it needs or whatever to get a big space in the middle for the puffy and the gills. Okay, so before we get to that, we're going to fold this over and fold it over again. And now right where everything meets, we're just going to cut off about 1/4 of an inch. You see, snippity-doo-dah. And then you have a nice little hole in the middle. And because this is fleece, mine is very, very stretchy. If you're not using a stretchy fabric, well, you're going to have to be a little more precise. Hence, you should use a stretchy fabric. Okay, so this is going to be our cap part of our gnome. So you're going to fold it like we did. And on the side that is closed, you're just going to cut one layer. Okay, so you can see here, I'm cutting just the one outside layer. And then I cut it all the way to the center. Okay. So you can see now that's how we're going to make our little mushroom cap, is we're going to fold over the edges. So I'm just sizing it here just to make sure that I like where it's going to end up, you know, in the end all be all size. You can make this anything. If you want it really narrow and high, you're going to fold it over a lot. Okay, so my fold over is about 2 3/4 inches here. And I don't know if that's important because you don't have to make yours exactly like mine, but I thought I'd share it with you. And all we're going to do now is just run a bead of hot glue right here. You don't need a lot. This premium felt is so magical because even if you press a little bit, the glue won't show through. But do gently adhere it. Don't press it down real hard so you get this ugly line of glue. And then we're going to go into the inside and we're just going to glue down the inside flap as well. So I have a little bit of holdover because this is hot glue, not sewing. And then I'm just going to cut off the excess. I know, I'm so like technical. This is how I make stuff. And this is the third one of these that I've made. So I do know that this process works for multiple sizes. Okay, so now here's the fun part. We're going to sort of line things up. So what we're going to do is use pins and line it right up at the edge, even though it's smaller, right? So we're going to line it right up at the edge and we're going to pin it 4 places. So just the front, the back, and each side. And there's going to be holes where it's not adhered. And that's where we're going to start gluing. So we're going to pin our 4 points down and then move on to our hot glue. Okay, so now the thing about the hot glue, you don't need a lot, and don't go right to the very, very edge because we don't want it to seep out. We want it just to look like 2 pieces of that mushroom are just, you know, kissing each other right at the edge. I'm very flowery today. Must be that animated gnome. Okay, so we're just going to repeat that on all sides, remove the pins, and then glue those areas down as well. And then we get back out our polyfill and we stuff it, but don't overstuff it, right? This is one that we don't want it to bust out at the seams because we are going to mess with this a lot. So you can see mine looks like a little pie, right? So I'm just test fitting it here. So again, mine is stretchy and I'm just pulling it down. And then you can see this is where my gnome nose is going to go. My beard's going to go here. And you can assemble it now. But if you would like to make these little gills, I had to look up what they were called. You just use a needle and some thread. You can use embroidery thread. I was just too lazy to get up and get it. All right. So now make sure you know where the front is and then start off to the side of that, because I will tell you from experience, you get tired of doing this and your gills don't look as pretty. So just start right to the side of the front, go through the front and then the other side. Now I did have to change threads here quite a bit because I didn't use a very long piece. I have a tendency to get it all knotted around myself or anything else I'm near. And all I'm doing is I'm going through the center of the hole, up to the edge of the glue, so you can see it's right near the edge, but doesn't go all the way to the edge. I just thought it looked better like this. Trust me, I tried the other way. But you do you. If you want to sew this before you put all this together, that's great. Just one thing, if you are hand sewing, don't pull it too tightly because you can warp that middle hole. And we want that to fit pretty snugly so that we can like hide all of our joins. Okay, so I'm not going to bore you with going all the way around, but do go all the way around. And then you're going to make a tie off on the inside and leave it a pretty large trail so that you can just cut it and then tuck it under. See, there we go. Happiness. Okay, now what? Tuck, 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 tuck. I have those all the way through mine. And so now you can see, we're not going to start assembling, but you can sort of see, you can see where you want. I wanted my hat pulled back. I don't know why I did a thumbs up. And now it's time to choose your faux fur for your gnome. I play dress up. It's very hard for me to decide on a beard color. As you can see, I have quite a few just plain beards, but yeah, I have a lot of choices and it's hard to make choices. Okay, so once you've decided on that, you can decide on arms. If you do want arms and you are using my pattern, cut a 6-inch rectangle by 1-inch rectangle, hot glue one entire side down, leaving the ends open, snip it in the middle, and now you have 2 arms. Biggity bam. All right, because we left the, these roll around. Sorry, I don't know why I filmed that, but I got frustrated. Okay, so before we put the arms and everything on, we're going to size our gnome beard. This is 100% your preference. I like a wraparound beard. You don't have to. But here's how I make my beards. I have a rectangle. I find a center. I draw it to a point, and I cut it, only the backing, with faux fur. I think everybody now uses my tutorial for cutting faux fur. There didn't used to be one, but here you go. I will link it above in case you want a detailed explanation of working with faux fur. But if not, we can continue and make our gnome. So we're going to put this right up to the bottom edge. For me, I sized mine so it just, the beard just kisses the ground. And then I hot glued it on just near the top rim of the body. Okay, now because we left those little open pieces at the end, we're going to add our little wood beads or clay beads or buttons or mittens, whatever you want to do, right to the ends. One arm and then the other. And we're going to be putting these seam down, so in case there's an ugly part to the bead, just put the seam facing the back of the body. Okay, and so you can see here where I'm placing almost right up at the very tip of the body, because my gnome is not holding anything. If yours is holding anything and you want it to have something, make your arms a little longer or put them a little lower. Okay, now let's see, we are going to add both of our arms. I don't know why I make them dance. We're going to add both of our arms and we're going to start assembling the rest of our gnome. So I'm going to turn them around here so you can see. Don't glue your hat on yet. It's like the last thing we're going to be doing. Oh, see, I can't. I'm having some difficulties with round objects today. Okay, so you see the hole at the bottom. Don't worry, we're going to cover that up, or I'm going to cover that up. Okay, so I've identified where I'm going to be putting my nose. Then I'm just going to hot glue it down. And just add a little dollop of hot glue, trying not to get the glue anywhere else on that faux fur. Once it's on, we're going to pop on our hat. Now, as I said, I wanted the hat to be tipped up. So we're going to secure it a couple different ways. I always, always, always recommend you do the nose first because that's the part that's seen, so you want that to be perfect. Next up, we're going to go to the sides. You can see here, I'm just going to lift up the hat on the gill part. I'm going to add the hot glue right above the arm, and then I'm going to turn it and press that down, right? We're going to repeat on the other side. Right here, so you can kind of see it's kind of pulled back so you can see the top. Add a little hot glue. And then I have the gill part pulled back. We're just going to place that on. Now for the back. I wanted to make sure that in case my dog or child got a hold of this guy, the hat was going to stay on. So I turned him upside down. I used 2 stitches and just tied those stitches together in the back like a knot, putting them through the body and the back of the hat. See? Not hard. Now I'm going to add a mustache if you want. If you don't have a hole to cover up, you don't have to add a mustache. But I just cut a rectangle, flip it down, and this is going to give you a big, bushy, wild mustache in case you want one. If not, find your happy place with your beard and your mustache and whatnot. But I'm just going to place that on right over the hot glue. Sorry, I have it turned around there. Now I'm just going to split my mustache, and there he is. Now is the decorating part. I like the little mushrooms with spots, so I'm gonna add some shroom spots by taking my felt and just cutting almost circles, kind of random ovals, wonky, natural, organic pieces. And I just put them all over the place. It's really good to put one at the top where that seam starts so that no one sees it. Okay, now that we have those on, this part is 100% optional, but if you have a tag or a button, go ahead and sew that on. I just added 2 little ties on either side because I really stink at sewing. But I love these buttons. So you can see his little button on his bottom. Isn't he cute? Anyway, you can get that button with your own shop name or name below. And here we have our adorable little mushroom cap gnomes. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Are you going to make these? If you do, boop, let me know. Join me at Ruffles and Rain Boots on Facebook. And as always, please like and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots.
Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today we are making an easy fall gnome garland. That's a mouthful. You can either cut this by hand, super easy, or you can use your Cricut because you're lazy like me. If you would like to make them with me, just boop, boop, boop. Stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now we're going to need wool felted balls, embroidery thread, felt, and Mongolian fur. You're also going to need something for noses and a hot glue gun. So when you put this into your design software, or you're going to print it out and cut it by hand, you're going to need 5 of the different colors of hats. So each hat is the base at about 6.5 inches. Just make sure that lines up in your software if your software tends to resize things. All right, so you can see here, I'm just going to make these 5 different colors. And the reason is because I'm going to duplicate the leaves 5 different times as well. So that on each mat, I cut 1 hat and 3 leaves. So it's all pretty much done for me on the Cricut machine. If you don't have a Cricut, I would definitely print out your templates. I include the PNG so you can use it as well. Print those out on cardstock so you have something a little thicker to work with. So you can see here the Cricut will put everything on its own mat. You do not need to mirror anything here. When you hit continue, you're going to select felt or acrylic fabric. If you're using an Explorer, just choose custom and then felt. You can use either the green mat with your felt or the pink mat for fabric. Choose default pressure and send it to cut. You can see I'm using the Cricut Maker here. If you have any questions on any of the machines, ask me. I have them all. All right, so you can see how easy it is to just pull this off. So if you have a scraper, you can use that for the leaves. And I want to say why, because you see here when I picked it up by the stem, I kind of like bent up the stem. It doesn't come off, it just kind of bent it up. So if you're, particular, use the spatula. To assemble these, it couldn't be easier. Just going to fold over one side and glue the middle down first. For the very, very tops of the hat, I like to vary what they look like. So some of them I'll twist, some of them I'll squeeze together, some of them I'll like kind of put a little bump in them or turn them down with a little hot glue. Just do what you want, be creative. All right, so you can see that little tab down at the bottom. You can either cut it off or leave it. I used to cut it off, now I leave it. So I'm super lazy. All right, so here we go. We're just going to keep doing this for all of the hats. And as I mentioned, vary it up a little bit. You can even put wire in the tips of the hats and get a little cute curly cue for some of them. For this project, I didn't have any small scraps, but do use your small scraps. This is a perfect scrap busting fabric, scrap busting fur idea. So try and minimize your cuts here. Use those little tiny cuts for eyebrows on like the wooden gnomes. But here I'm just going to make sure it sits on the back of the gnome. So that's as wide, it's however wide you want to make your hats. And look, I'm gonna brush out this really cool fur here, slowing it down a little bit. I really like what Mongolian fur looks like when it's all tailored. As for the nose, I mentioned I'm going to use wood rounds, but you can use pom-poms or wood beads. You can use felt rounds that you have in different colors. But you're going to split the fur to the fabric backing, press in a generous bit of hot glue, and then press down your nose. To attach the front of the hat to the body, we're just going to glue just over the top of the nose, pressing the front of the felt down onto it. And then we're going to repeat this. You can vary the sizes of your gnome noses. I ended up changing that. I just didn't like it. So again, splitting the fur to the fabric backing, add a generous portion of hot glue and give an intense nose boop. And then glue that hat front right to the top of the nose. You can give a little scrunch, you can give a little changes to the mustache or beard colors, whatever you'd like. This is just a guide. So now that everybody's done here, I'm going to space everything out, and then I'm going to bring in my colors and number of leaves per little section. So on the ends I used 3 leaves, and on the in between each gnome I just used 2 leaves. So I tried to vary the colors so we had a nice smattering of them. And you don't have to use all of them, but it's really cool to have them on other projects throughout your house. I am loading up my darning needle with embroidery thread, and I'm just going to pierce it through the felted wool ball. And then I'm going to start from the back, and I'm just going to thread on a few of these leaves and just pull them down. And you can move everything around a little bit later. The great news about felt is that it's not going to be, rolling around on your garland. To attach the gnome, do stay sort of at the bottom. You can either do the bottom like this, or you can do the very top of the hat. But if you do it anywhere in between, your gnomes are going to tip over and not be able to be seen. So just stick to the bottom or the very, very top. So I'm just going to continue here, alternating wool balls and leaves and gnomes until I get to the end. I'm going to speed that up for you so you don't have to watch. All right, so we're almost done, and now what we can do is just tie 2 small loops down on the end. You can do a slip knot, or you can just tie them in place. But you can see mine here, and here it is close up, and nice, these fall coordinating colors. Well, you can get the pattern for this below, but let me know down in the comments, what do you think? Would you make this? Would this decorate your mantle or a tree perhaps? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, please like and subscribe for more crafty fun.
And that's it for me today. What do you think of these fun gnomes? Which is your favorite? Let me know in the comments section below. As always, thank you for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe for more crafty fun.